Happy Tuesday. Um, I am for the very first time trying to stream to three different platforms at the same time. And I'm not exactly sure how that's going to go, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Um, so thank you for coming here on Dharma Talk. I haven't been here for a while, several weeks. I've been dealing with grief, uh, delayed grief, complex grief after my dad passed, and then all of the stuff that follows with wills and trusts and all of that stuff. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient with me. And I'll introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm Rabia Ilahi. I'm a psychotherapist and an energy healer in Houston, Texas. And I decided to do a talk, Dharma talk, because I felt it was really, really important that I share with you the things that I've learned professionally and personally and through life experience, and the privilege and opportunity I've had to have good information. And I want to share that with you so that you can have true information, because that is always my goal, is to share with you the truest information. And so because I'm doing this way new thing of both two different monitors, two different cameras, please forgive me if I miss a comment or a question. I will do my best to monitor both screens, but I'm human. I may mess up. Please feel free to DM or private message me, and I will answer whatever questions you have about the topic today. And so the topic of politics and mental health has been really, really close to my heart. And those of us in the mental health community have seen rates of mental health issues just continue to rise, over the last several years. I think my practice got really busy after the election in 2016, and then even more so during the pandemic, because I think we were still enough to be in our feelings, and we also got to witness things that many people knew were there all along, and for many of us it was a shock to see what was going on in the world. So depression, anxiety, these things are linked to our climate, our environment. And politics has now taken center stage of at least the US environment. I think during Brexit, 2015 maybe, or 2016, it was also in the United Kingdom, the same sort of division and fear and separation. And we are seeing this on a national stage for sure. I think other countries are also seeing similar things, but with the internet and our 24-hour access to news, accurate or not, we've sort of fallen into two groups. and both, on some level, are groupthink. And I'll explain more what I mean by that. But getting back to the political climate, I really want to use that as an example because I think most of us can relate to it now, even though we may not have been political before. What has happened, and I'll speak to the US because I live here. What has happened is that all of our fears have been activated. And we are very sensitive to fear because fear is how we stayed alive. And the number one goal of any living thing is to stay alive and to procreate, to keep the species going. And so that's kind of the lens I want you to kind of look at today is life or death and the fear of death. It's just death now isn't, well, it has been literal for many people, but death right now is loss of power, loss of privilege, loss of choice. And this division of us against them, as if we're separate, as if one group doesn't affect the well-being of the other group. We're still the human family. And I think we've probably not been this divided since Civil War, in the 1800s. And I don't know how. I worry that we've regressed in the last several years. And we kind of saw the culmination of that January 6th of last year, where there was such a fear of loss of, I'll call it life, way of life, status in life, power in life. There was such a fear of loss of that violence against a ruling body prevailed. And I think there were good people caught up in that violence too, because as it turns out, we are tribal. Human beings are tribal by nature. We're herd animals. Being in a tribe or a group keeps us alive. We're safer in numbers. We can share resources in numbers, and the ability to work with others, to collaborate and share and work as a team. That is what has helped us adapt to all the other changes that go on in the world. Because again, I'll state, our goal is to stay alive. And we will do what we think is necessary to stay alive. It's just not lions and tigers anymore, or famine, except for the thousands of people, even in the US, who don't have enough food. So there is fear. There's a loss of that as well. So having said that, I want to tell you a little bit about how our brain processes fear. So the emotional part of the brain sends a signal to another part of the brain in the limbic system that says, uh-oh, danger, our life is at stake, we're gonna fight, we're gonna run away, or we're gonna freeze. Any one of those things keeps us alive. And hormones, we produce cortisol and adrenaline, and that kind of powers us, amongst other hormones, powers us to do what we need to stay alive. So that's our biological basis. The other part is that love, the part that we need to connect and collaborate and work with each other, which ends up in life, extended life, more life. Love has hormones that regulate the fear hormones once the threat is over. And the love hormones, and I'm not talking just romantic love, but this is love for each other, our friends, our family, our pets, the environment. We're wired for that. We need love to balance the fear. We're just in a constant state of fear now. And we don't even realize that the stress that comes up with increased levels of adrenaline and cortisol and what we do to deal with those things, overeating, oversleeping, maybe over self-medicating, giving into anger, violence. Those methods are our current way of dealing with fear of death. So I want to speak to that a little bit, because we're not running from lions and tigers. We seem to be running from each other. And that goes against our wiring for love and connection. And love and connection are the emotions that give meaning and purpose to our life. They're the meat of our life. Hi, Jacob. They're the meat of our life. And that's how we thrive. So I want you to look at what's going on in the world and in your life personally. What state you're in. And know that we are influenced by our tribe, our culture, what we're reading, what we're listening to, what we're speaking about, the conversations we're having, religion, or no religion, spiritual concepts. All of those things are actually influencing us without unconsciously. We don't even realize we are being fed ways of being all throughout the day, every single day. And what I want to make sure that you know is that you actually can choose how you want to feel and move through the world. You can choose how you behave when you feel something. So when there's fear, knowing that the part of the brain that's triggered is ancient, it's what's kept us alive. That's not the kind of fear, although we're still reacting to it in that way. So with fear comes anger, comes disconnection. There's like a cycle of fear where we feel separate and it's us against them. And it's this, for a minute, it feels good. Like, oh yeah, competition. I mean, we see it in our sports. There's competition. It's just not conducive to a longer, healthier life. This sustained level of fear, this underneath all of everything we're doing is stress. The stress never gets to really reduce. And we don't even realize how stressed we are because it's just the way of being. It's also the way society is set up because stress keeps our noses to the ground. We work hard, or we spend money, or we do something that benefits the way the system is set up. And I'm going to try to be as neutral as I can be today because I think you deserve to think for yourself. You have the right to do that. You have the right to choose how you want to feel, what you want to believe. And I don't want to get in the way of that. However, I have to let you know the consequences of choosing to live in a constant state of fear and stress and not practicing at least once in the day, moving from that state to a state of calm and peace. And I know it can sound lofty. Peace, love, calm, Zen. There are biological reasons why we live longer when we practice peace. We live longer, we are healthier, our immune system is better. We recover from colds and illnesses better when we have a positive, optimistic state of being. And when I say that, I don't want to discount the reality of lack of choice, lack of opportunity, lack of resources, lack of safety. There are millions of Americans that don't have the same access, the same safety, and the same opportunity. And if we're privileged to look like those in power, when we're privileged that way, we're not necessarily thinking of what it's like to not have that privilege. As someone said, another therapist was sharing this story, it's sort of like if you're right-handed and majority of people are right-handed and the world is set up for right-handedness, we don't really think about left-handedness. You know, it's why would we? That's not, it doesn't pertain to us. And that's the part that it's not about being right-handed and left-handed. It's about having power and being able to affect your life, being able to have access to healthy food, healthcare, good public schools, you know, the internet. There's a lot of the country that doesn't have the same access to the internet that many of us take for granted. And so the compassion and empathy comes from being still, turning off the noise, and actually sensing how you feel with it quiet. Is your heart still racing? Are your muscles tight? Is your breathing relaxed and deep? Or are you having trouble breathing deeply? Are you having trouble looking around you and feeling gratitude or lucky or blessed? Those are things that each of us can do at any time, is shut off the noise and pay attention to what our physical body is feeling, and then what our internal state is, our internal state of being. Relaxed, open, constricted, closed. Ask yourself, you can do that right now if you want to. Close your eyes. Go inside. I know it's not quiet because I'm talking. Go inside. What's your inner world like? You can share with me if you're on Instagram, on Facebook Live. You can type in comments. If you're on YouTube, I won't see the comments, although you can leave comments at another time. But I invite you to let me know, what does it feel like if you are quiet and you go inside? So I'm asking you, what does that feel like? Can you shut off the news? Chaotic. Yep, chaotic. So what do we do when the inside feels chaotic? Number one thing, breathe. As simple as that is, breathe. Take a really deep breath. And the inhale, our diaphragm actually expands because we're introducing more air into our body. So the stomach goes out, and then when we exhale, we're contracting and the stomach goes in. So a lot of us breathe backwards. Take a deep breath for those of you that are feeling chaotic inside. What's that like? Can you take a deep breath? Can you go below the surface? I see. Yes. If you are finding what I'm saying simplistic, send me a comment, ask me a question. Oh, it's loud inside. Yes. Okay. Because it's loud on the outside all the time. And it's being quiet is not something we practice so much in Western cultures. Self-reflection isn't something we practice. And our politics are reflecting where we are as a species. We are divided because we are living in fear of each other and noise, because the news never ends, social media never ends. We're here right now on the internet, and that's a lot of noise. So what would it be like if you are privileged, if you look like people in power, maybe you're the same color, the same gender, maybe you are heterosexual, cisgendered, all of that stuff that can sound like nonsense to a lot of people, but it really isn't. There is a hierarchy of access, and we all want to identify with people that have access and power and wealth and success. And so if we identify with that group, we can also take on the beliefs of that group without thinking, do I really believe this? And if I do, what does that feel like? Do I feel joyful, comfortable, happy? Do I wave to my neighbors? Do I say hello? Do I make eye contact with people and genuinely see that we all come from the same place? Or do I feel afraid and angry? You get to ask yourself that. I will tell you, the last few years have been incredibly scary for those of us who don't look like people in power. If we're immigrants, brown or black, the power, our access to power is being taken away bit by bit. And there is so much misinformation and disinformation that tells you that we're coming to get you, the immigrants, the brown and black people, you know? And I'm not saying this I'm saying this because I hear this in my office. I see it at the grocery store. I see it when I'm driving. I hear my daughter come home and tell me what kids say to her because of her color. And I hear my nieces and nephews and the things that they've grown up hearing. We finally got to see some of that when we were all quarantined at home and saw what happened to George Floyd. That's not a one-off. That's a reality. We just got to witness it when millions have been living in that reality. So I don't want us to fight each other. Politically, yeah, vote for who you want to. Know the consequences. Know the emotional energy that spreads with certain policies. Are we generous? Are we giving and loving and inclusive? Or are we working from a space of not enoughness? There's not enough. It's zero sum. If they win, I lose. Not enough money, not enough jobs. Are we afraid and angry and judgmental? Those are the consequences for the politics, and we get to choose our political team. And I'm not talking Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking about fear-based and heart-based, love-based and hate-based. We get to do that because it is our right as human beings to choose the way we want to feel. And we often feel the way our tribe does. Does that work for you? Or are you noticing that it's not even working for the tribe anymore? Like I said, depression, anxiety, stress-related illnesses, lowered immunity, all of those things. Are you noticing that in the people around you? We can actually affect our physical health by our thoughts, which create emotions. And so we can actually think that the person that looks different than I do isn't against me or out to get me, that that person is just that person is just like me. Someone just said this. The shooting in Buffalo, New York. I'm seriously thinking about distancing myself from my best friend, who is white. She appears to be oblivious to what has happened and how it affects me. This is part of privilege. This is part of, and thank you so much for sharing that, because we've seen this divide starting 2015, 2016, where, and as the instances have increased, it sort of brought out, I think, the worst and the best in us, and some of the people that we love and have been loved by may be showing things that they believe consciously or unconsciously, but that hurt us, that hurt a group of people. You know, what happened in Buffalo is horrific. Here's an 18-year-old kid who has been fed, who's been living in an environment, and I'm talking about social media, I'm talking about what he reads, what he listens to, what his friends say. You know, I'm talking about all of that. He's been fed a diet of hate and fear and wanting to annihilate Black people. Why is he so afraid of Black people? What is he losing? What is the threat? What justifies going into a store and shooting people down? What justifies that? What justifies an officer, a person in a position of power, keeping his knee on a Black man's neck to where that human being cannot breathe and is literally killed in front of our eyes? I don't, the comment is, I don't think it was fear he felt. Underneath hatred is fear. I am losing something if those people get something. Black people are, what if they're human just like me? What if they're 100% human just like me? What does that say? Do I lose? Will I die if Black people have the same rights as I do? You know, or do I believe that if they do, if we share power and privilege and access, does that mean I die? If it does, then I'm going to hate on the people that I think are out to get me, who are out to replace me. That is hatred. Underneath the hatred is the fear of death, of being replaced. So I say that because I want you to keep looking at things through the lens of life or death. And death no longer is just like a physical death. It's a death of power. It's a death of access and privilege and the right to make decisions for other people, the right to bully, you know. That's a death for many, many people. It's life for many more people, but it is death for people who are afraid they are being replaced. Yes, the right to control, right? If I control you, you won't replace me. If I control your what you do with your body, you're not really a full human being. And I know the right to choose, and then denying the right to choose is a very divisive topic that is being played out, because it, like racism, falls into sexism and privilege. And I was thinking the other day, what if the people who are making those laws, right, feels insecurity? Yes, insecurity is fear. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. Someone is better than me. Someone is coming for me. On the choice thing, what if the people who are deciding what you can do say, you know what? Cows are spirits. They have a right. They are a living, sentient being, and you are no longer allowed to eat beef. Not allowed. It's against the law. In fact, if you do, you will be punished because it is morally wrong. And look, there are people that believe killing any animal or eating any part of an animal or drinking animal protein, any of that is actually immoral. They just don't tell you that you have to do that. And so this is where, as human beings, to get to choose, as long as you're not infringing on someone else's rights, right? Because if we make a law against eating beef, killing cows, then we are infringing on other people who don't have the same beliefs. We are infringing on their rights, what they do at home, the food they put in their bodies. And so we're free to believe whatever we want to. Abortion, if you choose that, it's your thing. And if it goes against your moral beliefs, don't do it. You don't have to support it. You don't have the right to keep someone else from doing what that person deems is necessary for their well-being. In 2020, the American Medical Association determined that racism is a public health issue. Public health. Why? Racism induces fear and hate and oppression and economics. Racism upsets our longevity. It upsets our quality of life. It makes us more likely to be sick and not recover or have other autoimmune issues because of what racism feels like, if you're practicing it or if you're receiving it. It is a public health issue determined by the American Medical Association 2 years ago. Sexism falls in that. Controlling other people because you're so afraid reduces your life. It reduces the quality of your life. So maybe we don't do this for the good of the world. Maybe we do it just for our own health. You know, I'm going to exercise, cardio, lift weights. I'm going to pray, meditate. These things are good for me. So is practicing compassion. Feeling love is just as healthy, if not more so, than exercise, prayer, meditation, eating well. It increases our lifespan and the quality of our life and the way we treat each other, which affects the way the world is. Yes. Control of voting. The right to control, yes. Control your access to jobs, education, medical treatment, voting, and access to breathing. Yes. You know? So, I hope you heard something today that may make you think in a more loving way. I hope you heard something that moves you to become closer to people, which often starts with feeling empathy, putting yourself in their shoes, to accepting that there is power and privilege in what you look like, what gender you are, how much money you have, your height. Are you in a wheelchair? Are you physically abled or disabled? All of those things are privileged. And so what would it be like if you didn't have a basic privilege that you do now? What does it feel like for someone who's denied that the minute they walk out the door? Because they don't pass, you know? So I will end with this. I will end with telling you that we really are one and the same. We really are pieces of the same. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, like all of these elements, same. In fact, we share most of that with, I love that. Yes, I love that we are all one. We share that with plants and animals too, and the earth, And so I just want you to feel that connection, that each of us is just a little piece of life force. Call it what you want, call it air, breath, love, call it God, the universe, the divine. It doesn't really matter because the truth is scientifically there. We are made up of same elements. We're not alone and we're not separate. And we're miracles and we matter. And even if the world doesn't believe that you matter, I want you to believe that you matter and that you are a miracle, a 1 in 400 trillion miracle. So, having said this, I welcome you guys to email me, DM me, private message me, share this with your friends if you think it can be helpful. I hope it can. That is my intention. And I will see you next time.